What we are doing is making sure that the statements are in the Main Street Wire, and I understand as of today that everyone's gotten their statements in, so that will be appearing on Friday in this weekend's Main Street Wire. I'm not sure how long they are or in what format. I guess we'll find that out together. What RIOC will be doing is the Candidates Night on Thursday, February 2nd, starting at 8 p.m. All of the arrangements have been made with RIOC to secure the upper sanctuary at Good Shepherd and all of the props and things that we'll need to make that happen. The format will be as follows. We'll start off with 3-minute statements from each of you. And Ashton, I hadn't mentioned this before, but if you've got a working egg timer, it could be our timer.
I do.
Okay, I've got a terrific watch with a very visible minute hand, so if you would take that on, I'd sure appreciate that. 8 candidates at 3 minutes is 24 minutes right there, assuming that everyone takes their time and that there's no interim between them. More predictably, that'll take about a half an hour. We're intending that the closing statements will be about the same. In between, what we're intending is a Q&A from the audience, and we've gotten pretty good responses from those. What we will ask people to do is not to make speeches, that's your job, but to simply ask brief questions of you, and if they hear questions that are the same or similar to the questions they wanted to ask, to either change their questions or to stay seated. What we would like to do on that Thursday evening is to cover as many island issues as we conceivably can. Your opening statements might be very similar to what you put in the wire, who you are, what you've done in life, what your participation in Roosevelt Island has been, how long you've lived here, the issues that you see facing us in the future, that sort of thing. Questioners will have an opportunity to either ask questions of the entire slate of candidates or to focus their question on a single candidate. Should that be the case, the other candidates will have the opportunity to respond as well. So everyone will get a shot to answer questions. The final statements can be either a continuation of your opening statements, or they can be a different approach, just your hope for the future, new issues that you see as necessary, or they can be rebuts of what you've heard other candidates say, entirely your choice. But this will be the only opportunity that RIOC is affording you to campaign. So let's talk about campaigning, entirely up to you. Some of you are well known on the island by virtue of other organizations that you've been involved with or RIOC. Some of you are newcomers. I've been in both situations. I've run 4 times for RIOC, and in each time I've been in contested elections, and in each time I've had to campaign my ass off. The first time I ran in 2000, I ran against not just an incumbent RIOC president, but also a member of the RIOC Board of Directors and a member of Community Board 8. And I was a complete unknown. What I did to compensate for that is I campaigned for 6 weeks. We don't have that luxury, but there are many opportunities to campaign. One of the strategies that I found very useful was to go out on Saturdays at the farmers market, because it's a collection point for Roosevelt Islanders. People from all over the island come there to shop. I handed out what are called palm cards. A palm card is nothing more than a business-sized card, which on one side had my picture, it said Roosevelt Katz, and on the other side had a series of bullet points. What I had done on the island, what I intended to do on the island, why you should vote for me. I ran them off on my computer. You can just buy cardstock and run these things off. They're cheap and inexpensive, and it's a very good way to be remembered. Another thing that I did was to speak in every single building complex on the island. The way you do that is you call up building management and you reserve a room, or you call up the resident associations if buildings have one, and ask them to host you, and ask them to put together a group or put up flyers in the buildings, and talk to people in each building, talk about their specific issues.
Hi,
Hello. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
How's the menu going, and where's my portion?
Sorry.
Just talking, I'll reiterate quickly. As you know, the only campaign offering that RIRA is making would be February 2nd. Opening statements, 3 minutes each, 8 candidates, 24 minutes. Q&A, we will try to focus it so that we're getting an enormous range of questions, so that the same questions are not being raised more than once. It will also be my job as moderator to make sure that the speech making comes from you and not from the audience. Easier said than done. Everybody has a lot of opinions on this island. We follow up with 3-minute closing statements, which can be anything you want them to be. It can rebut what other people said. It can be new ideas that occurred to you during the course of the evening. It can be a continuation of the statements you made at the beginning. Your choice. My hope is that we do the entire thing in 2 hours. Most people are working. It's a long day. I would really like to make sure that it's 2 hours and 2 hours only, so that people get out of there not exhausted and still listening to what people have to say. Election day. Election day is, given the number of people required to put this on, a strange business. Polls will be open at Good Shepherd from 6 in the morning until 9 at night, all day, like any other election. Polls will be open at the Octagon and at Southtown at 455 Main Street from 6 in the morning until 10 in the morning, and from 5 in the afternoon until 9 in the afternoon. During the midday hours, the polling boxes will be collected and brought to Good Shepherd, and so that people from those buildings will be able to vote during the day, but in conjunction with the voting going on at Good Shepherd. I will be going through all of this detail in the column I started writing today. So hopefully people will be reading that, and also that this will be reported as part of the news part of the Main Street Wire, and also through the Roosevelt blog. It's an enormously labor-intensive process to have people with the tenant lists in front of them. And let me tell you, collecting tenant lists from all of the management companies on this island is no mean task. Some of them say, sure, here it is. Some of them require me to offer my firstborn if we don't do everything they offer. I have to sign my name in blood before they give it to us and swear that I will return the list to them within 10 days. Don't ask me why. What do they expect to do with those lists? It's a mystery. Hello.
I have a few questions.
No, let me go through my spiel, and please.
Oh, I thought that's why you
absolutely.
stopped. I didn't realize you
No, in terms of the campaigning, I just wanted to touch on a few more things. Signage. For the RIRA elections, there are limits to how much you can spend. For these elections, for the RIOC Board of Directors, we have set no limits. Up to you. The kind of signage you put up around the island is a personal decision. We had heard from the Hudson Company that they were that they were excluding any signage for the election on merchants' windows. I've been speaking to David Kramer. That limit has been lifted. Any merchant that will work with you will put up signage. Now keep in mind that RIRA has an incredible amount of signage, everything from 8.5 by 11 little pieces of paper to enormous things that will be going up all over the island, plus about $1,000 worth of professionally made signage that will be going around the tops of each and every kiosk, as well as 16-foot banners down at the subway and up at the Helix, at the farmers market. We take this very seriously. Our premise is that if we don't demand a seat at the table for Roosevelt Islanders, we will never get one. We've been working at this for 15 years solid. We've made progress in some instances. We've lost ground in others. We're going to continue it until we win. And by definition, winning means that 7 out of 7 members of the RIOC board, other than the 2 ex officio members representing housing and budget, will all be residents chosen by this community. That's our bottom line. We're not there yet. We're going to continue working to add it. And if we have our way, that will then be translated into rather a nomination procedure to give choices to the governor, but direct election. We've been rewriting the legislation that created RIOC for 15 years now. It's been passed by the Assembly year in and year out. In 2010, it was passed by the Assembly and the Senate for the first time, and then vetoed by Governor Patterson. Don't ask me why. We want what everybody else has in small town America. We want the control of our own home. So that's why we're doing it. You know this better than I do. You're taking on the premier governance job of this island. The only thing we have that approaches local government on Roosevelt Island is the RIOC Board of Directors. We have a wonderful city councilwoman. We've got terrific people in Albany. Our congresswoman spends a hell of a lot of time out here, but they're not the decision makers. RIOC is the decision maker. Now, sometimes they refute that they are a part, that they are our governance, that they are simply administrators, managers. Hogwash. They are our local government. And if we are to have a seat at the table, that's where our focus has been and will be. So that's why we're doing this. That's why we're working so hard. If we are successful this time, if the 3 seats that have expired are then replaced by the winners of this election, then we know in November, when we are anticipating 3 more seats to expire in the spring of 2013, that we've got a leg to stand on, that we're going somewhere, that we have established a precedent for this that we can take to the future. RIOC does not want to be in the business of putting on elections twice a year. That's not what we're here to do. What we want to do is establish a precedent so that when RIOC puts on its election every 2 years and even numbered years, that the RIOC board, half the RIOC board will be on the ballot as well. So then RIOC can go about its business and once every 2 years think about putting on elections, which is enormously draining. So that's our goal. I'm enormously grateful to you candidates for putting yourselves out here. This is the easy part. Campaigning is talking to your neighbors, is talking about the things that prompted you to run for the office in the first place. Jonathan, Howard have been on the board of directors. They know the kind of time and Faye, of course. All have the experience, and those who've not served on the board, if you need some background, you might speak to them about how it actually impacts your lives, what being on the board involves in terms of homework, in terms of committee work. From what I've gathered, I mean, here we are, 3 folks who've been on the board are running again for office. That tells you something. So that's about as much as I can tell you about what I'm doing. If there are things I can share with you about campaigning on the island, I mean, what it comes down to is the more people you talk to who recognize your name and your face, the more likely they are to vote for you on the 7th. Most of the campaigning will be up to you. RIOC will not participate in any way, shape, or form, other than to run as clean and as impeccable an election as we are capable of doing. Grace, I know you had
I have two
question.
questions, is that all right? One question is it's going to be, the voting is going to be at 3 different buildings, right?
Yes.
Can
Anybody can vote for anybody.
at any building, right?
Yes.
Well, no, you can't. You have to go to Good Shepherd if you're in Northtown. You have to go to Octagon if you're in Octagon, Southtown if you're in Southtown. But in the donut hole between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m., everybody votes in Good Shepherd.
Okay.
But you have to
Go
go
to the place nearest you.
basically where you live.
Okay.
For Octagon and Southtown. And that's we set up satellite polling places for their convenience during rush hours, but we don't have enough people to do it for 15 hours in the satellite locations.
Okay.
But everybody can vote for the whole board, regardless of where they live.
Yeah, that I know.
Yeah.
All right, the second question I have, which was the first question, but then we went backwards, is there any kind of restrictions on the question, the people who question us? For example, I'm not saying it's a good idea or a bad idea, I just want to know, because that's what's happened in places I've been. Is there something where a person is allowed one question? You're allowed?
Yes, one question.
Everyone is allowed one question, and maybe...
There may be a follow-up. I mean, you play by ear.
But you have to, I think...
That's going to be my job.
I think you have to let the people know that they're allowed one question and one follow-up, or
I'll
they're
be
allowed
setting
one
the
question.
parameters at the beginning of the evening, sure.
Oh, but I thought I would, okay.
No,
That was
that's my
something I
job.
wanted to know, because I've been in,
Where it got out of hand.
no, I wanted a second question. My friend wouldn't ask. But I could see this
It's a
getting out
very
of
good
hand.
question, Grace.
But-
Part of that will be determined by how many people show up and how many people line up to ask questions. If there are a lot of people, I want as many people up at that microphone within that hour, that 1 hour that we're taking questions, as possible.
Oh, I think that's
Which
the
means
best.
that we're limited to one question. If only a few people show up, God forbid, then we might conceivably take more questions. But at least one question per person and on different subjects. That's my goal.
So one question directed to one board member?
Well, that's the thing.
One candidate, or?
As each person comes to the microphone, they can indicate that the question is for the field or the question is for one particular candidate. Should they ask the question to one particular candidate, the other candidates will have the option of answering as well.
And when you get, so when you go up, when you get up there and you start the meeting, you will tell the people that they have a, let's say you decide a right to one question and one follow-up, and you're going to tell them that although they're asked, they can direct it to one candidate, the other candidates can answer.
Everything that I've told you, I will tell them.
Yeah, okay.
And as a matter of fact, I'm writing it up in my column right now so people can read it ahead of time. We'll try to make it as transparent as we possibly can so people know the parameters. As I said, my goal is to get through as much information as we possibly can in 2 hours. Easier said than done. If you were at the retail meeting with the Hudson River-related people last October, there were so many people. There were 350 people in that audience. And everybody had dozens of questions. And to get through the evening was interesting.
They care a lot more about retail than they do about the elections.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
The hardest thing anybody in politics has to fight is apathy. If people don't realize, especially in an island of 12,000 people, how much influence they have in how things get done. You know, in an election like this, where we're trying to put together a board of governors, a board of directors, that's only 9 people, and 7 of those people are us, are residents of the island. There's the potential for an enormous amount of influence coming from this community, an influence that never existed before we created this election process from scratch. So we're doing hard stuff. Anybody else? Campaign literature. If you're good at composing, it's amazing what you can do on a computer nowadays. You can do it in Word, you can do it in Publisher, you can create really attractive stuff, run off a half a dozen copies and just slather them all over the kiosks. Makes a difference. People look at that stuff. You can go to the Trellis, you can go to the deli, you can go to all the stores on the island and say, will you put this up in your windows? They will or they won't.
And you can door drop in Island House, Westview, River Cross, and Roosevelt Landing. I'm not sure about Manhattan Park. Does anybody know?
I don't think so. I think you don't put it up in the laundry rooms in Manhattan.
Right, that's
They're
what I thought.
persnickety about anything, even in the lobby.
And I know
Southtown.
Octagon and Southtown are...
Just laundry rooms, actually. I think you can do laundry rooms at Southtown.
Can you? Oh, but I meant door drops as opposed to...
You can't do door drops, they won't let you do door
I
drops.
know, that's...
And Octagon, you can only do
Right,
e-notices.
right. Emails? No, they have
A posting, they will only do electronic posting because it's green.
Of course, people who do laundries are a powerful constituency.
We all do laundry.
Each building complex has its own rules, which makes everything that much more complicated. Some buildings will allow you to do door drops. Roosevelt Landings, they emailed us today and said, we'll do it for you. That's rare. Most places you have to do it
They'll
yourself.
do the campaign literature for it?
Yeah.
No, for our stuff to announce what we're doing. Campaign literature is different, but you never know what people will do until you ask. Rick?
Well, I intend to videotape video the candidates night meeting.
Perfect.
So I will have whatever presentation you guys make on video and I'll post it on my blog. But I cannot guarantee that I will have the entire length of the meeting. Each individual candidate may want to have somebody video them, someone that you know video yourself as you're making your presentation, and then they can always upload it to YouTube or somewhere else, and then I can embed it myself, just in the event I can't do everything. So that's just something you may want to
My problem is
be
that
aware
I
of.
know Rick was just speaking English, but I haven't any idea what he just said.
I understood.
Do you understand? Okay.
I understood you, yeah.
Also, if any of the candidates who have not served on the RIOC board want to learn more about what is involved in being a RIOC board member, a couple of months ago, several of the RIOC board members gave maybe a 2-hour presentation, and I videoed that, and that's on my blog, so you can look at that if you wish and get a lot of what I think is useful information.
How do you find your blog? That's good.
I'll give you the address.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very useful. Some good stuff on there. Essentially, other than for candidates night, the campaigning is up to you. The time you have, the creativity you want to put into it. It makes a difference. Much of this process, given that a vast number of people in Roosevelt Island don't really know what the RIOC board does, never having attended a meeting, is about name and face recognition. It's the nature of the beast. We see it going on in the national campaign right now. It's time consuming. It's how it works. Again, I really recommend the farmers market on Saturdays. It's just a neat way to make personal contact with an awful lot of people in a short period of time. So I wish you all well. May the best man or woman win. If there's anything I can do in terms of giving you more information about process, I'd be happy to do that. You know how to get a hold of me. And it's a very finite period of time. By February 8th, we know where we are. We turn it over to the governor and to the mayor and to their appointments offices in certified letters, return receipt requested, and we hold our breaths and we wait and see what happens. We've done it twice before, and we're rewarded by appointments of the people that the island had elected.
How many names will be pulled?
3.
So those are the only ones left to fill out that form for the government?
The whole ball of wax here.
There are only 3 seats available.
Yes, and so you're going to tell me
The top 3 vote gatherers.
Right.
So the people voting will be able to select 3 names?
Only 3.
Only 3, okay.
If they can select fewer than 3, and it would be a valid ballot. If they select more than 3, we throw the ballot at it.
Or maybe the 6 would be regional.
And then if we are successful now, we repeat the process in November. Clearly, at the time that national elections are going on, you can expect a larger turnout because people are coming to the polls anyway. In terms of what we can do, we will have election machines. We can afford them once a year in November. We can't afford them now. These are paper ballots. But in November, we will have machines set up, primarily in the school, in the front of the school as you walk in, with the national election going on in the back at the cafeteria. But again, we will have satellite stations at Southtown and at Octagon.
With machines.
With machines all day.
Yeah.
At the last election that you had, did you forward just the amount of people that had, there were opening seats for, or did you forward everybody?
No, just the winners of the election. To
So
fill the
when
number
they-
of
So when
vacancies.
I might be wrong in what I understood. I understood that when they had an election, that some of the people who scored high were not picked by the governor.
That's right.
So,
And she's wondering how the hell they knew the names of
How
people
they-
that were lower on the list.
thank you, that's what I was gonna get so quickly. In other words, how did they
I-
get down to the name?
I'm not absolutely certain that we, and you have the records, I don't, but I'm not sure we did it exactly the same way in both elections.
Maybe different.
And also, I'm just not sure. I mean, we'd have to look at the record, because I think we sent I think in the last election, because there were 2 seats, and I think we sent 2 and a spare in the last election, but I am certainly not sure. And you've looked at that letter recently, and I haven't. In the first election, 2 people got skipped over, as you know, and the 4 were chosen from the top 6, but not from the top 4. And I don't remember, we just need to look at it. I don't think we should make statements tonight about what it is we're going to do when we can't even remember exactly what we did in the past.
We're going to have to go back to the letters that we sent, and I've been searching my files, I haven't found them yet, but they're there, and find out exactly what language we used with both the governor and with the mayor. Because keep in mind, the mayor, according to legislation, has the right to offer 2 recommendations to the governor, one of whom must be an island resident. In fact, the mayor has recommended 2 of the people that we elected, both island residents. So we don't know where that goes. The problem with that is that not only do you have to go through the governor's vetting and the state police, you also have to go through the mayor's vetting. Why they do it that way?
Which is why Howie was appointed 11 months after everybody else.
Yeah. 2 sets of vetting, same vetting. Same vetting?
No,
Different?
different. Different forums, different interviews, different fingerprints.
You have 2 sets?
Seriously.
You call up
Yeah.
your default set of fingerprints and then the other.
Different, separate interviews, of course. And somehow I was lucky enough to have to go to all of them.
So,
So, now you know everything that you know. If there are any other questions, if they occur to you between now and whenever, ask them. Should be. Yeah, things will occur to you, usually at 3 o'clock in the morning, that's the way it
that
works.
is really true.
Yeah.
Don't call.
But don't call.
Definitely.
Don't call.
That's what I'm saying.
Email fine, call no.
I do use that.
Keep in mind that of the candidates, the criteria were 6 months on the island, 25 years of age or older,
And U.S. citizen.
and U.S. citizen. The criteria for voting is not the same. You need to be an island resident of some duration, 18
6
years
months.
of older, and you don't have to be a citizen.
No, there's no requirement for age, for duration of residency.
Right.
for voting.
Oh, no, for regular voting, yeah.
To vote.
But here you have to do 6 or 8 months.
I'll tell you
6
one
months
piece
to be a
of,
candidate.
one really nifty piece of campaign information that I've learned from standing out in front of the pool, in front of the school on election day for 15 hours. There are an awful lot of people on this island, a lot of diplomatic families, who do not realize they can vote in either the RIOC or the RIOC Board elections. So when you see people who call it profiling if you like, but who you think might be diplomatic, you might ask them if they're voting that day, and when they say, oh no, I can't vote, disabuse them of that.
You're putting that in the column, of course.
Of course.
And it'll be in the article, of course.
Of course.
And it'll be in all the email blasts reminding people to vote.
Yeah, but I don't know, I can't count how many votes I managed to garner up. If not for me, then for somebody, from people who didn't even know they could vote.
So they don't have to be on the island 6 months?
No.
Oh, well, somebody had said to me,
Not for voting, for being a
for
candidate.
voting, because somebody said to me, I've only been on the island for 5 months, I can't vote, because she didn't know that she could vote
Well,
anywhere.
it's published, so, I mean,
It
we'll
is.
we'll just keep putting it out there.
Well, she sent it to me.
It's a complicated business. I mean, who goes to the polls to vote for somebody who may or may not be appointed? Only on Roosevelt does this happen.
And somebody has said that to me already. Well, actually, when I was looking for signatures, I talked to everybody. So I went to the Starbucks, and they said, well, you know, it's a government appointment anyway, so what difference does it make? So,
The
yeah.
idea is to show the government or the governor that we are interested and that we are voting, we have our choices, whether or not he chooses us or not, that's his thing, but I think the whole idea is to show that we're interested.
Here's an interesting thing, though. In the first 2 elections we did, the people who were appointed to the board were being appointed for their first terms. This is the first time that people who have served on the board
As
have to
elected.
defend their records.
Yeah.
You know, who have to go to the electorate and say, this is what I've done during my term of office, will you reappoint me or not? Which is the way the system works. It's the way it works in government, and it's the way it's going to be working here.
Did Michael Shinizaki do that, or no?
Did who?
Did Michael Shinizaki run twice? Or no?
He's only run once.
He's
He
only.
was appointed by the governor for his previous term.
Okay, but he wasn't reappointed?
No, his seat was given to someone else the same month that he ran for the board. In other words, he was appointed to his first term, it had expired. He ran for a second term, he hadn't run for the first one,
Okay,
and he was elected.
okay.
In his first term, it was not as a result of election. It was simply as a result of recommendation. So much of what we're doing now, we're doing for the first time. We're inventing it as we go. And if we can make this thing stick, and if we could get something in writing that could then be translated to future generations of New York State governors, then we've created a process that simply happens. But we're not there yet. Right now, every time we've got a new administration in Albany, we invent it from scratch, which is the hard way of doing everything.
It's hard for them to give away. It's hard for Albany to give away power.
To give away
It's
power.
very hard. I've seen it where
That's
it worked.
exactly, yeah.
It's a very difficult thing to give away power.
But it's the right thing to do. Thank you all for coming out. Please call on Ashton or me or Aaron Hamburger, who is the nominations chair,
Or Sherry.
my wife Sherry, who has been doing all the publicity on the island. Every scrap that you see around the island over the next couple of weeks, she produced. So we're going to do our best to get the word out.
No, because you just